Okay, today we're going to have two guest speakers, Howard Geyer and John Burke. John's going to be going through some questions and asking Howard some of the stuff that he does. But before we get into that, just real quick, $100 going to Anthony Rocket. Thanks for being on the call nice and early. And a couple quick just housekeeping items. Reminder, we have our 5-tier contest. It's possible we may throw out a little bit of an extra bonus for this week. We'll let you know in an email this afternoon after our manager's call. But we will be doing at least $500 to each person in the tier. That contest, again, remember the cutoff is this Friday, so you got to overnight everything Thursday to be there for the 21st, and then Lincoln will be closed the 24th and 25th, and New Year's Day. So they are open the 31st. So even though we have Christmas, that gives us until the 31st to get our business to Lincoln. So everything needs to be there, and make sure for your post-dated checks that you're offering it trying to keep it between the 1st and the 4th. If you do that, that business will count for this month. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn over the call. I'm going to John Burke and Howard Geyer. You guys both there?
We're here.
I'm here. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. So maybe John, you can kind of start off a little bit and kind of tell them a little bit kind of about Howard, and then I'm just going to let you guys run with it. I'm going to go ahead and mute out, and I'll be here if you guys need anything.
Okay. So I'm going to do my best to keep this short. But last night, Adam asked us to kind of get on here and interview Howard, and I thought, what's a different way to do it? Some of us, have heard Howard talk before, whether it was in person or over the phone, because it's such a successful agent. So I gave it a little thought, and the thing was, yesterday I had my youngest son's birthday party, so Howard has no idea the questions I'm going to ask him or the direction I'm going to go. Pastor Howard, would you agree with that?
Yes, I'm very nervous already.
You should be. So, I think ultimately what we're always asking when we ask you to talk, or Aaron Cruz or Anthony Rocket or the 27,000 in a week man, Caleb Hales, we're always asking is, how do we duplicate your success? Right? In our own way, that's what we're asking. Agree?
Yes.
So you and I have discussed something before, and I'd like to start with this premise. Let's say that the great Adam Hale offered you $100,000 to recruit and train someone who broke $400,000 in production in the year 2020. Okay? So we run an ad, 10 or 12 people show up. What questions are you asking them? What are you looking for? And before you say, I am going to invest hours into teaching you, into duplicating myself. So let's start there. What would you be looking for? You understand that question?
Yes, in a potential agent. That's
yeah, but the only goal, not a successful agent, he or she has to write $400,000 or you get nothing.
Right.
Right.
Or I get nothing. So I'm hired to find an agent to write $400K or more.
Period.
Okay. Well, that's a tall order because I haven't done it myself. And I know, I'm knocking on the door, but when it's all said and done, there's no easy way to do that. But let's just say for the sake of discussion that I'm tasked with that endeavor. My first question is, why do you want to do this? I want to make money. Okay, it's got to be more than that. Do you have a family? Yes. And that's not a requirement, but their drive, you know what? It's hard for me to derive that initially until I ride with them or until I watch them.
But that's all right.
Or I listen.
But we got somewhere, right? So you want to know why, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So any other things that are important?
Their goals.
Perfect. Okay. So for me, one of the things I'll always jump in and ask is, what is your financial situation, right? And the reason I always ask that, and Eric Enriquez will tell you that, and Howard will tell you that when you bring somebody on, is because I can't speak for any of the managers on this call, but I always want to know, right, do I have 2 weeks or do I have 3 days, right? And that matters in terms of, I don't want to micromanage someone, right? Howard, neither do you. But there are times where we give somebody a little bit of rope, right? And then all of a sudden they call us and say, hey, I don't have $2 to put in my gas tank, right? So is that a road that you would go down to figure out what sort of time frame we have to start making income?
Absolutely. That's very good.
Okay.
Yeah, that's very good. Yes.
Okay. So then you pick the right person, right? And maybe they're with Lincoln already, right? Maybe they're with Lincoln. What's the first thing you ask him or her to do?
To do what I do, and I mean I lay it out.
Okay.
Do the survey, follow the script, take leads, mimic what I do. If you do what I tell you to do, then we have a baseline of whether you'll listen and you'll try to do what I tell you to do. See, I mean, people tell me that they want to do this and they want to do that and they have these goals and but I tell you what, if you tell me, and JB, I mean, I know it's a broken record, but there's people who maybe haven't heard this or it just doesn't resonate, and then a light bulb goes off. But you told Adam, I mean, are you made up in your mind? I'm going to do exactly what Adam tells me to do, see if this translates, because you'd worked somewhere else and really felt like it was just a bunch of baloney. And so he came over to Adam and did what he said, and I tried to do that very same thing. You told me to be successful to take 20 or 30 leads a week and to work this many hours and just to keep your blinders on, do 3 to 5 presentations a day. And those were goals that I had set, and it began to translate into sales and whatnot. And so,
let's drill into the specifics a little bit. So you're going to have them learn the way you do the survey. You're going to have the way you do the scripts. Are you going to touch on objections at all?
Absolutely, because they're inevitable.
And a scale of 1 to 10, right? 0 being all they did was ride with you. 10 being they know every word forward and back, right? You can interrupt them. You can do whatever. They know the script. They don't just have it memorized. They can deliver it in an actual flow, right? Before they are allowed to go out and touch their first door, what number do you want them at minimum?
Oh, well, I would say about 6.5 or 7.
Okay. And what else is it? And what else is it? Go ahead.
And it also depends on the individual. Sometimes, obviously, personality, the way people engage or interact with others. If they're a little more timid or just a little more reserved, then they have to know their stuff a little better. If they're a little more engaging and jocular, that's a good word, isn't it? Jocular. If they're a little more jovial, then I think they can, it's not the best, but I think they can fly a little bit better by the seat of their pants. Because if they start talking to people, people will buy them, and if people aren't buying you so much, then they need to be buying the information, and buying you will come. But, so there, that's kind of an interesting dynamic. But cut and dry, you need to be at about a 7 before I feel confident sending you to a first door. Because then you're burning leads. If you don't know what you're talking about, you don't know how to handle objections, you're wasting money.
Hey, John, I want to jump into that too, just real quick. Just for anybody that doesn't know, or especially anybody that's new or struggling, a story on John Burke. Just, the first time that me and John Burke sat down, one of the things that he asked me, or that he stated he said, I'm going to do everything exactly to the T that you asked me to do. He's like, literally, if you tell me John, wear a blue shirt every single day, he's like, I'll do that. And he said, and he asked me, do you know the reason why I'll do everything to the T? And I said, what's that reason? And he said, because I want to know within 2 weeks or not, in 2 weeks, whether you're telling the truth or not. basically what he said, whether you're full of it or not, because I don't want to waste 6 months or, or a year trying to figure this thing out. I wanted to know the real potential here. And, and so it's anybody that's not getting those results. A lot of times it's because they're modifying what they've initially been taught to do. They're changing what their managers taught them to do, or their mentors taught them to do, by adding things or not doing certain things. And so they never get that full result. So I just wanted to throw that in there. So anybody that's not doing that, to how important that is.
Okay.
Let me jump in real quick.
Go ahead.
JB, let me jump in real quick. So I want to make use of an agent of mine, Jason Traeger. He, when we rode along, he was a sponge. He very engaging. He wanted to know what we did. He very, very humble, very teachable. We asked him to call, follow up with us. He calls. We asked him to do this. He does it. And because of that, right now he's qualified for the trip. His high month is about $34,000. When he doesn't write 15 or something thousand, he's disappointed. So I mean, the success is translated, and he's got some other extracurricular activities going that have really taxed him. He's a single parent. He takes care of his daughter, shares time with her mom, and so he's picking her up from daycare school, and after care from school and whatnot, and taking care of his dad, who's alien in health, but yet still last month wrote about $11,000, and really just taxed for time, and so I look at him, and what's the difference between him and other people you train? Really just teachability, coachability, humility, and just being willing to do what we said, because it translates if you just put that with a good attitude. It really, and then also the presentations. He endeavored to do 3 to 5 presentations a day, and I really like how JB puts that out there, because when you get your mind to do that, then you just know it's a numbers game. If I sit in front of 3 or 5 people a day, and that can translate really to 6 or 10, right? Because it could be husband and wife. You're double dipping, or more if you got kids and different things. It really pans out. Go ahead, JB.
Yeah. Okay. So now we got it. They have to learn the script. They have to know the survey. They have to know the objections inside and out before they start. Now,
yes.
What sort of schedule in terms of hours would you demand from them?
40 hours a week.
Okay. Now,
40 hours a week.
40 hours a week. Now, is that so? If you have leads an hour and a half away from your house, so that's 3 hours total. Is that 5 hours in the field?
No, that's 6 to 8 hours in the field, and whatever else. I mean, if you're an hour and a half away, and again, I need to get out earlier, and I know that we do pretty good with what we do now, but that's not the point. The point is I can do better, because I'm kind of relying a little bit on my experience and how we've progressed in the presentation and just helping people. But if you're a brand new agent and you need a model for success and you need a template to follow, then you need to put 7 to 9 hours. And that depends on your daylight, doesn't it? A lot of times, because I don't like knocking on doors when it's real dark, just because people get weird and it's a little awkward. But it depends. Again, that depends on your experience and just on your ability to handle people. Because if it's 6 o'clock and dark, but the lights are all on, and your lead says that person's 55 years old, I'm knocking on that door. They're probably up and fine. So that you have to kind of get used to the different demographics and things. But 7 to 9 hours, they're not knocking on doors, will translate into success.
Now, and how many leads would you ask them to take?
20 to 30 leads a week.
Okay.
A
Now,
minimum of 20.
let's say, for example, there's a man or woman who you thought was the best person in terms of attitude, commitment, right, skill set, right, and they said, I want to learn to write 300,000 or 400,000 a year, and they happen to live in a place where leads are tight. Would you say you can't work here? What would you do in that situation?
I tell them they have to be willing to travel. Okay. 2 to 3 hour radius around your house.
Perfect.
And
okay, good. Now, what about communication? How often
they need
to communicate?
Daily.
Okay.
Daily.
And
daily. And in the beginning, if you come out of a house and you don't sell it, give me a call.
Now, the other thing is, do they report their numbers to you?
Yes. Jason daily.
Often? Okay.
So
even though
every day, he walks out of a house, he sends me a text.
But even though he reports them to Tracy, you like to know sooner the better.
Absolutely.
Why?
Because if I haven't had any, well, number one, if I know his MO is when he sells, he texts me, and so I know that he's winning, he's making money. If he doesn't text me, I know he's not selling. And so if he goes for a day or two, or we're in contact regularly, but that way we can intervene, we can help, we can push buttons or encourage. You just don't want folks to get out too far along and get overwhelmed by their lead deck.
But again,
but
Howard, that's their responsibility, right? So again,
yes,
you did this to me, right? I didn't call you every 10 minutes, right? You and I had a call, right? You reported your numbers, right, in your schedule, and so does Jason. Whether you had a good day or a bad day, you and I talked.
Right.
Agree?
Absolutely.
So that's important. If somebody wants to write 300,000, that's an important part. Agree?
Yeah, no question.
Okay. The other thing, the next thing I would say is, let's say you struggle, right? Howard, you've written more than almost anyone. In fact, you have written more than anyone has in the amount of time that you've been here, right? Ever. So, but you have struggled. Agreed?
Yes.
Okay. So when you have what's struggling for you? A day, 2 days, day and a half, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What
2 days?
What time frame? 2 days. Okay.
2 days. 2 days is a struggle. No question.
Okay. So at the end of 2 days, right? If your new agent is struggling, right? Do you suggest them put in the same or less hours or more hours? Do you expect them to take more, less leads, or continue to work what they have?
Just do the same. Do the same. Don't change anything. Do the same because and that's what comforts me when I blank a day or two. Which doesn't happen very often, two, but every once in a while, you blank a day. I just hearken back to past experience, which at this point, if you're new, you don't have. But yes, you have to trust your manager. You have to really put your blinders on and trust your manager. And if you just do that, your manager will not give you enough rope to hang yourself. Your manager is trying to keep you from dying. So if you're telling your manager, listen, my lead balance is this, and he wants to give you more leads, rely on your manager's experience and guidance, because he's not going to give you more than he wants you to have for his own good either.
All right, so I'd like Adam to kind of comment on this also. But so what you're saying, so I can just tell you from where I sit in this company, right? What stops people from writing 300,000 or 400,000 are both sides, right? They have a great day. They go write 12, 13 policies in 2 days. What do? They take 2 days off, right? They say, I'm good. They go, they stop working, right? I'm good. I'm going to take a day off. I'm going to hang out at the house. I'm going to go, Caleb Hale goes to the water slide, those sort of things, right? Or, right, if they blank for 2 days and it's normally the time when they order leads again or do whatever, they stop and they freeze and they they try to force production out of something that's not there, right? Adam, do you want to comment on that at all?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that, matter of fact, me and Phil got to hang out a little bit this weekend. We were talking about it. And he was kind of one of the things he goes, Phil's someone that he writes 20,000 plus a month, right? He's consistent. He's all, I don't even know his average. He's higher than that. It's over 20,000 a month. But one of the things that he pointed out, he goes, one of the things that I picked up from Howard, we had the Christmas party and listened to him talk and everything is that, Howard, he's consistent and he's steady, right? And me and you've talked about this, John, and saying that, again, and I'm sure out there's probably people that have more sales ability or that maybe that are even a better salesperson than Howard, but his attitude is so consistent. If he has a bad day or a bad 2 days, the way he works, right? He goes in, puts in the consistent hours every single time. And whether he's had a huge week or a bad week, he's consistent. He'll still take those 35 leads. If he's only made a quarter of the sales that he normally would, he doesn't just panic, right? And abandon his plan because he knows those numbers will work out. And sometimes when you get 20 leads, or 30 leads, you might only get a couple of sales immediately. Now that doesn't mean that there might not be business that you sell a week from now or a month from now in those leads, but you have to continue moving forward. And, again, it's something that we've seen it over and over again is that consistency. It's the same thing that we see a lot of times, and I'm sure, John, you probably agree. And, a lot of people towards the end of the month will not take leads, and then they might miss out on an extra 4,000 or 5,000 production that they could have wrote because they're trying to get a little bit more of their pay through. Well, then what ends up happening is then they end up getting 2 or 3 deaths, something happens, and then they don't get it anyways. And then what they did is they just wasted time that could be productive.
Yeah, they're just confused. And again, if you're on this phone, there's people that are going to argue with me under their breath right now. But they're just confused about what their job is. It's right. I mean, it's a $4,000 pay through, right? If you have to take a shortcut, that means your business isn't built right? I mean, I've been here, and again, different strokes for different folks. I've been here for, 7 years. Is that right? 6 years, something like that, Adam? Right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying this for anything. I have never asked for a Patriot exception. And the reason I've never done that is because to me it's a reflection and, oh shit, my business isn't built right. Oh, I needed to work harder 2 or 3 months before. Now, if you need one, I'm not here to imply one way or the other, but your business should be able to run it to pay for itself. And if it's not, that's a symptom that needs to be dealt with, period, right? And so these are the things that Howard and I talk about almost on a daily basis, if not weekly, is where are we at? I think the last thing I think is important to Howard to talk about is this man or woman who's chasing 300,000 or 400,000. What, right? What should he or she do, right, in terms of goal setting? How often should they recalibrate it? How often are you tracking your numbers? When do you do it? And if you're behind or ahead, what do you do differently? What would you ask this man or woman to do?
Yes, well, like we shared at the party, you want your. I need to be at about 20,000 by the 15th. Right now, I'm at 17, and so I'm behind for this month. But that's not on the books. That's pending and on the books. On the books, I should be at about 13 today or so. But with everything pending, I'm at 17, just over 17. So I didn't hit 20. But at the middle of the month, I'm still, past 15, and we're trying to, average at least 30 a month. And it becomes pretty doable. But if you get to those different milestones, those markers through the month, then kind of you can see where you're at. It gives you a barometer of where you need to be and where you're at. But that game plan has to be there. And so, and also another thing is like, I try to do at least 50 deals a month. I think I average a little bit over 50. I wrote over 600 last year. I should be on pace to do that this year. But because if I write 50 deals, it typically puts me over 30,000 also. Depending on, it doesn't matter how you slice it, it just adds up to be that. And so, these are little things that you begin to shoot for, and it's been helpful.
And Howard, not to cut you off, but would you say that you and I, as our goal for you is to go after, let's say, 400, right?
Absolutely.
Agree?
Yes.
We don't build the goals based on the 2 or 3 times you're going to go over 45,000, right?
No.
We build the goals based on the times when stuff goes wrong, right? When you have a vacation and you happen to hit a bad 2 or 3D trade. What we do is, what is the minimum? What will we hit no matter what happens, right? There's a Christmas party, there's a travel, and there's a sick day in there, right? Right? What can we hit, right? And so a lot of it, whether it's daily, weekly, or monthly, our vernacular is, what is our minimum we're going to hit no matter what? And we drive to that as if we were trying to hit 50 or 60,000. You want to talk
Right.
more about going after our minimums, not falling below a certain threshold?
Yes. You know, obviously, when you're new, 30,000 looks like it's impossible because you haven't been there yet. So, I compete with myself, and last year, January, I think I wrote 20-something thousand. This year in January, I wrote 30-something. And my wife shared that with me. She said, just beat yourself, challenge yourself. And so every year, I'm trying to beat the month I had the year prior. And for me, because I already have a benchmark of where I can be or where I need to be. And and those big months, those $50,000 month or $40,000 month, or we haven't had $60,000 month yet, but those really are anomalies. They're nice anomalies, but they're not normal because there's a lot of luck involved in those. Those are things you can't expect. They just fall out of the sky. But those make up for the days of the month. Yeah.
But do you agree? We never discuss how to get those months, right?
No.
We only discuss how to bring up the floor. Do you agree with that?
Correct. Yes.
Howard and I, and with Adam also, we have zero discussion on how to break a record weekly or monthly. First of all, you know, the records are pretty difficult, right? The great Caleb Hale, 27 grand. We don't even know if that's doable, right? He walked on water that week. But but that's all we discuss. Do you agree with that? So, Adam, do you want to kind of open up the questions or add anything on there? I know we're going a little long.
Yeah, let's open up for a couple questions. Let's see if we can get 2 or 3 questions in. If anybody has any questions, 5-star on your phone, and we'll try and get to you. And then maybe at the end we can also have Howard and you give out your phone number that way if anybody has any questions here. 5-star if anybody's got questions for Howard. He's 3rd year. He's running for number 1 agent in the country. And I don't know the exact number of agents, but I would have to guess that Lincoln Heritage has probably between 14 and 15,000 agents. So being the number 1 agent, 3 years running, is definitely not an easy task by any means. And Howard stated at the party that his new goal for 2019. What's your goal, Howard?
450,000.
450,000. That's incredible. So I'm going to give it here just a few more seconds here too. Is there anything you want to add while we're waiting, Howard?
Yes. So to that, and I think I sidetracked myself, which I'm wanting to do as a preacher and as a speaker. But when we're at the party, and I was kind of sharing my progress. The first year, I did roughly 185,000 in 10 months, and which is, it's great, it's excellent. And I'm not tooting my horn, but it is, because if you're not even at that, if you're at 15,000 a month average, that's excellent. It's not something to shake a stick at or to be down about. You build on it and keep going and really compete against yourself, because it's fun to compete with others, and I do it, and I'm not a sore loser. I have fun. I don't want to lose, quote unquote. As far as finishing first, second, or third, all that stuff. But I'm not a sore loser. If I lose, I left it all out on the field, so to speak, right? And I just congratulate the individual who excelled. But that being said, so I did 185, and then I did 310, and we had a little meeting, a little award meeting, Adam Hale did down in, I think it was in Merced. And, it was, and then another fella and he gave us bonuses. It was an amazing thing. You know, I mean, it's the first job that I've had these type of bonuses and whatnot and this type of income. And, it was a real blessing. So he said, what's your goal for next year? And I said, 350,000. And I told my wife, she's like, you shouldn't have said that, or, like that was kind of crazy, like pie in the sky, because we just busted our butt to write 310,000, the year prior. And I thought, shooting for the stars. Well, we wound up writing, 366,000, some change, the next year. And I was like, wow, we did it, man. And that was with a $50-something thousand December that I had to do because we were trying to, beat my friend and arch nemesis Suzanne Aguila, and so Aguila. So we did that. But so the 366,000 was ridiculous. But then the next year, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to beat what I did the year before, the month before, that month for the year before. And a lot of times we did. Sometimes we did not. But most times we did. So that translated to 381,900 for last year. And this year I've got some work to do to get there. I think I'm right now with the pending stuff at about 365. But I've got half a month to get over 381. I'm trying to, with some luck, who knows? You know what I mean? You never know. I could get to 400,000. But luck is when persistence and opportunity meet each other. You create your own luck by being in the field and talking to people. There's no two ways about it.
Well, awesome. And we don't have, I'm not showing any questions here on the back end. Before I forget, I also wanted to give a shout out because, we just brought on a bunch of new agents in Illinois, and Sean Williams, a group out there from the Chicago agents, they're doing their first 2-day boot camp, sales training boot camp. So I know they're on the call, and I wanted to give them a shout out as well. But if you wouldn't mind, Howard, if you would give out your contact info, your cell phone, and then also you, John, that way if anybody has any questions, I mean, both of you guys bring so much fantastic insight, and it's I really, really appreciate you both sharing your knowledge with everybody else that's tuned into the call.
Okay, I'll just jump in first, Mike, and I don't answer, just leave a message. And one other thing, I wanted to share this. It was kind of neat and weird at the same time, because when we were at the Christmas party and I was sharing some things, we were talking about the business, right? Just talking about what we do every day. And there's a fellow sitting there by the name of Eric Enriquez, and I thought, you know what? If I had the presence of mind, I'd have grabbed that dude and pulled him up there with me, because there's certain folks, and really we have a number of folks: Phil Vaught, Chad Wood, Dylan Wood, Jesse. These guys, they're so good. I mean, but Eric, he could write more than me. He could do more. But he's going in a different direction. He wants to be a manager, and he's building a team, and he's got a great team. And there's, if I had thought about it, and I know the lights were on Howard at that time and all that junk, but now I would have grabbed him and said, share with some of these other folks about how to, do what you're doing, because it's tough. It's tough, Adam, being a top producer and then, wanting to be a great manager, letting go of the reins, producing, and starting to put your livelihood in the hands of other people. But it's a chasm that and I have not crossed it yet. I'm not even in the middle of it, but it's a chasm that all agents and would-be managers have to cross. And I just thought Eric is a great example of that, and obviously John Burke. I mean, he was a top agent before he was a regional manager, and yourself. But I just wanted to put that out there too. If you need some help, pick Eric Enriquez's brain too, man. We got so many good managers on our team.
Well, maybe what we'll do is we'll try and see if we can twist Eric's arm to do next week's call for us.
Right on. JB.
All right, JB, can you give out your phone number, JB?
5. Just to recap it, like again at the beginning is, are you sure you're here for the right reasons? Right?
Right.
What Howard said was, number 2, are you willing to put in the hours? Right? Period. Number 3 is your script, your presentation, your survey, and your objections. Are you dialed in on that? If not, take a step back and do those. And 3, have you set a goal? Are you tracking it? And are you communicating? And the last one is, are you taking enough leads? Or are you doing enough presentations? So we can make it complicated, and we could bring in things that are variables that don't matter. So for me, the only thing I always like to try to tell people is that Howard is a better, way better salesperson than I. Obviously there's managers, Mike Stanbaugh and Adam, they're very, very good at building teams and those things. I really, really pay attention to process and what's discussed, right? And I can just tell you the main difference between somebody who succeeds in commission versus somebody who doesn't even get started, or the difference between a good person and a great person, is that they look at it just as an equation. See, somebody who thinks, how are you going commission only? They say to themselves, it's too risky. And what we all say is, it's not risky, it's just math, right? I do X amount of presentations, X amount of them say, I get paid. So people on this call are saying, well, I can't take that many leads. Well, that's what's stopping you from being great. You somehow looked at it as a math equation to go commission only, but the reason you're not one of the 10 or 12 people that Howard mentioned is because somehow you've lost the fact that it's just an equation. Either you're taking these leads or you're taking these hours and you're trading nickels for dimes. And it's no more complicated than that discussion. And if you're not, it's not worth it. So your choices are to quit or to improve on your process, script, right, et cetera, et cetera. That's it. And the other thing is just like $50,000 improvement in terms of Howard's goal. Him and I will look at it. We'll go, okay, that's $1,000 a week in production. Okay, that's 2 apps. Okay, you spend 45 hours in the field. So we have to figure out a way to get an extra deal every 10 or 12 hours, right? That's how him and I discuss things. I'm not going to say weekly or daily, but at least monthly, this is how we discuss things, right? So we don't, $50,000, that's a ton. No, an extra deal every 10 or 12 hours is not difficult in terms of the inefficiency of us. So that's the last thing. Sorry I talked so long.
Hey, no,
that's
let me
fantastic.
say this. He said that's how we discuss it. That's how JB discusses it. He's very generous in giving me credit for. I really appreciate JB. I really appreciate how he analyzes and he gives me a game plan, and he really kind of just cuts through all the red tape. And sometimes when people are talking to him, I tease him because on the phone, especially in the beginning with him, if you don't know him, you don't spend time with him, he's not touchy-feely, and he may sound kind of coarse or kind of rough. He's not, but he's very pragmatic and very deliberate and calculated. And if you just don't have all your feelings out on your sleeve and all that stuff, and really in life, if you'll take constructive criticism, you'll go a lot farther.
Well, hey, what a fantastic call. Again, thank you guys both. And, appreciate everybody that tuned in. Fantastic job. You got something you want to say, JB?
Yeah, I appreciate Eric being on the next call. I just would like to also, I don't get enough of the $27,000 a week man, Caleb Hale. So I definitely like to hear from him by the end of the year.
Yeah.
All right, we'll get him.
Hey, he quit way too early. See, if he just played out that month, he'd have had $108,000. I don't know why he didn't.
That's right.
He just gave up.
Well, again, I appreciate you both. Thank you so much. Everybody push hard again. The holidays are coming quick, and don't forget the contest is on. So there's extra money, and you're only competing with yourself and people of a like production. So there's no reason not to take some leads and go out and make it happen. Thank you guys. Thanks, John. Thanks, JB. John and Howard.